But my question is, for the theologians or the religionists out there, what are the implications of that? Hey folks, welcome to the channel Thinking Theology. I'm Don. I am wearing my Columbia University hat. Not only did my niece go there, but Brian Greene, who sort of inspired this video that I'm doing now, is a professor of physics and possibly mathematics. They kind of go hand in hand frequently at Columbia. Anyway, I did a video where Brian Greene was on the Colbert Show, and he was talking about relativity on the Colbert Show, and it was wonderful and all this stuff. But there was a little thing in there that just stuck with me, and I said I want to do a special video on this very topic with the theory of relativity and Einstein's with E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. The C stands for the speed of light. That's a very large number relative to human beings, not relative to the size of the galaxy, for a galaxy, for example. But in E equals mc squared and the fabric of space-time, without going too deep into any of this stuff, the Earth is moving away from the sun at the rate of about 6 inches a year. And the reason for that is that in this theory of energy equals mass times the speed of light squared, mass is related to the sun in this one. And here's the thing. The sun is losing mass. These numbers to humans are absolutely astounding, but on a galactic scale, they're not. But the sun converts, the estimates are just over 600 million tons of hydrogen to helium every second. And it's also estimated, approximations are about 4 million tons are converted to light and heat energy. So that gets jettisoned out into space, and that's partly what heats the Earth. 4 million tons per second. How does it not run out of fuel? This just gives an idea of how large it is. But the key component here is, in terms of Einstein's equation, that energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. Well, the mass of the sun is being reduced. So in a sense, its weight is being reduced. And in the fabric of space-time, it is losing its gravitational pull. So the Earth is slowly moving away from it as part of that process of the sun losing mass. And there's a difference between chemical reactions and nuclear reactions. So chemical reactions in terms of burning things would be like burning a log on a fire, where that's a slow process, or burning a piece of paper or something like that. A faster reaction would be like oxidation reduction, which is what chemical reaction is in this context with fire. Be like a bullet, like pulling the trigger on a gun. Well, the oxygen is inside the bullet casing, and it happens very quickly, and it propels the lead out extremely quickly. That's how I remember it. A nuclear reaction, like in a nuclear bomb, isn't an oxidation reduction reaction. There's a different process that goes on in there, and that is similar to what goes on within the sun, where it's a nuclear reaction where one element, hydrogen, is being converted to another element, helium. And that's, I think, due to the intense pressure and heat that exists within the core of the sun and then, gradually outward. So the sun is losing mass. And in the space-time example in geodesics, some folks think, and I used to think this, that the Earth was being pulled closer and closer and closer to the sun due to the sun's gravitational pull. That's not so, because the circle, it's really an ellipsis that the Earth travels around the sun due to the fact it is losing its gravitational pull within the fabric of space-time. And so bit by bit by bit, the Earth moves further away from the sun. Not that we would notice it, because at 93 million miles from the sun, half a foot a year is not going to be noticeable in our lifetimes, because the average lifespan, let's say, in first world countries is roughly 80 years. So over the course of your lifetime, roughly 40 feet, the Earth will have moved in its orbit away, further away. So in 100 years, it will move roughly 50 feet. 1,000 years, it'll move roughly 500 feet. And in 10,000 years, it will move roughly a mile. So it doesn't move very much. And it wouldn't be noticeable. But my question is, for the theologians or the religionists out there, what are the implications of that? And I just ask questions. I don't take a hardcore position on it. I just look at the logic behind it or whether it seems reasonable that somebody makes a particular argument. Some arguments just don't seem right and you can't pinpoint why. Others, you're like, that's ridiculous because of this other body of knowledge that we've got. But I wonder, if there is a God, why would it not be more of a constant or a consistent orbit around the sun? And some will say it's a stupid question, it doesn't have any bearing on it. Fine, you don't have to play along. But for those of us who are curious and like to delve into areas that may or may not have been covered before, if you will, or questions that may or may not have been asked or not asked a lot, I like to ask them. What are the theological implications? Does it make one believe more in a God, less in a God, question anything? That these changes are being made. Why would we be moving further away from the sun? Now, granted, I said initially it's imperceptible to us, but where did we start? Did it start 1 billion years ago, 500 million feet closer to the sun? Now, 500 million feet, like 500 million feet, is like 100,000 miles, somewhere in that neighborhood, 80, 90, somewhere in there. Let's say 100,000 miles closer to the sun. Is that enough to make a difference in the Earth's atmosphere? Some things are very delicately in balance, so we don't know those things. Well, I'm sure that we could figure out what would be the rate of water evaporation if 1 billion years ago, 100,000 miles closer to the sun. But it's not. That sounds like a big number, but it's really not, because 93 million miles is the distance from us to the sun. So we would be moving like 0.1%, somewhere in that neighborhood, closer to the sun. That could be enough to throw numbers off. It could make certain processes here on Earth untenable. It might blow off the upper atmosphere, the ozone. I don't know what the implications would be. But when we look at the difference, if we accept that the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, which I have no problem with that. I mean, according to Sir Karl Popper and many others and such, we can't scientifically test that. We can only make our best guesses, and some of our guesses are very involved. They involve math and studies and cross-referencing across fields. So they're way more reliable, way more believable, let's say, but can't test it. But I have no reason to discredit that. Certain things that I've read and seen seem to support that, but who knows what 4.5 billion years even is as a human? We really don't. So what are the theological implications, though? I love looking at this stuff. I like debating it, considering it, in some cases refuting it, some cases accepting it, and so on. But it's just fun to see the various trains of thought that go on as far as what the relevance is to a more chaotic solar system. And chaos is a relative term too, and maybe I'll put together a video on that and why it is chaotic is a relative term, because this chaos is relative to our ability to support life. But like math, which is a non-existent entity, we make this up to account for our universe. Chaos is also another one of those concepts and precepts that is relative to our ability to support life. So we don't necessarily conceptualize it that way, but philosophically speaking, that is, and linguistically speaking, when we speak of chaos, we're speaking of it relative to life here on planet Earth. Sometimes more selfishly, let's say, relative to my own life, but generally speaking, in a broader context, what is the effect on life on planet Earth to the Earth moving further away? That is chaotic, though. That is not consistency. We may say, okay, that's well ordered. It's repetitive. Sir Karl Popper would love that part of it, and so would I. But that said, we're not. Why? I have a feeling I'll be hearing more from the scientific community, the atheistic community on this one, saying it's one of 1,000 reasons for not believing that there's a God because there are too many inconsistencies. And fair enough. I mean, I don't have a problem with looking at it through that lens. Doesn't bother me. But I'd just like to ask the questions, even if I don't have answers for it. It does strike me, though, as an oddity. If you were to create a system in which life was to be born and be lived out, why would you make it so that body would be gradually moving further and further and further away from a sun that is losing energy and eventually is going to burn out anyhow? I don't have the answer to it. These are big questions. That's why I say I'm an agnostic. If there is a God, I don't know what he, she, it would be thinking or look like. The texts don't do it for me. So anyway, all right, guys. I look forward to reading your answers. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already, and we'll have more fun with this. Have a great day. See you on another video. Enjoy the mass of the sun while we've got it, and keep thinking theology.